So it's looking like there may actually be a few superstar names that are available for trade this offseason. And of course, that depends how their team's playoff success goes. But we've heard Giannis and Anthony Edwards and Ja Morant, and clearly all of those guys would be perfect fits on the Miami Heat in terms of their play style and age. But as Heat fans, we know that we can't be picky when it comes to superstar acquisitions and whale hunting. Because for the last 6 years, we fantasized every offseason about which superstar we're going to get just for us to end up with nobody. But things are a little bit different now because the Heat have more assets. They have more cap space available. And actually, we could potentially have up to 4 first-round picks available, according to Barry Jackson. Now, a couple of days ago, I kind of posted a video explaining the Heat's draft pick situation, so make sure y'all go check that out if you want to recap. But if the Warriors miss the playoffs and if the Heat miss the playoffs, well, then we can have 2 picks potentially in the lottery this year, and then after the draft, we would have the years 2030 and 2032 first-round picks open up as well. That means that we would have 4 tradable first-round picks. In addition to that, we have expiring contracts in Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson. You mix those together, and you could potentially have enough to compete when it comes to trade talks for some of these superstars. That being said, the perfect prospect available for trade might never happen. Giannis might never leave Milwaukee. Anthony Edwards might sign a massive extension with Minnesota. And I don't think it's smart for the Heat to continually run back the same mediocre team, be in the play-in year after year, and before you know it, you're going to waste all of Bam Adebayo's prime. And I just don't think that's smart. But we do know that other options are almost definitively going to be available this offseason because just today, it was basically confirmed that both Kevin Durant and Zion Williamson will be on the move. So in today's video, I want to talk about the pros and cons of acquiring both players and who I think the Miami Heat should target. So let's start with Zion Williamson because there was a lot of Pelicans things going on in the news today because, of course, they fired their GM, David Griffin, which good. I don't like that bum. Ever since he was back on the Cavaliers when he used to run them, he never liked that LeBron left and went to the Miami Heat, and all he did was cry about it. And then when LeBron came back, he was like, oh, y'all don't know how hard it is running a team that has LeBron in it. You should show me some sympathy. I never get any credit. LeBron gets all the credit. Yeah, because he's LeBron. Stop crying about it. Show some appreciation, David Griffin, you bum. Clearly, I don't like him, and neither did the Pelicans because they let his ass go and replaced him with Joe Dumars, who actually had some success in this league 20 years ago. He was running the Pistons back when they won their last championship. Even though he was a bit corrupt back then, he got fined a ton of money for leaking information to Adrian Wojnarowski, who I also don't really like either. But shout out to Joe Dumars. He'll be the new president of basketball operations for the Pelicans. And today the report came out that Pelicans ownership was going to force Joe Dumars to trade Zion Williamson, which might be hard because as you can see here, Zion makes a ton of money. This year, he's coming off a $36.7 million contract, and he's got 3 more years left on his deal at $39 million, $42 million, and $44 million at the age of 27 years old. So he still is really young. He was only 24 this season, but that certainly is a ton of money for a guy who truthfully doesn't play that much. You could see his career stats over here. This year, he only played 30 games. Now, the year before was 70 games. And if they would have traded him after that season, after the 2023-24 season, his trade value probably would have been a lot higher because he came off a season where he only missed 12 games. Now, don't forget, going into those playoffs, he actually got hurt, so he didn't play in those playoffs. And then obviously the injury stuff continued into this year where he only played 30 games. And if you want to go through his career, 24 games, 61 games, 0 games, 29 games, 70 games, 30 games. So really only 2 seasons where he played most of the season, which is not good enough. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns you have with him and his weight, but at 24 years old, I'm personally not ready to give up on him because when he does play, he is awesome. Even this season in the 30 games that he played, only 29 minutes a night, mind you, he averaged 25 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, and the efficiency was awesome, 57% from the field. Obviously, he's not a good three-point shooter, 23%, but he was 66% from the line, which is, that's also below average. But you know what you're getting from Zion Williamson, a dominant force that can attack the paint at will. He's an excellent rebounder, and also this year, the Pelicans used him as a point guard. And you see, he averaged the 5 assists a game. He did that role pretty well. That being said, let's go into my trade package I made for him, which was very difficult because I have no idea what his trade value is. Part of me wants to say it's very high because he's a 24-year-old superstar in the making, but at the same time, he's getting paid a ton of money and he can't stay healthy. So this is what I put together. I have the Miami Heat receiving Zion Williamson and the Pelicans getting Andrew Wiggins, Jaquez Jr., and 2 first-round picks from the Miami Heat. From the Pelicans standpoint of things, who knows? Do they want to compete now? They just traded Brandon Ingram, didn't get a lot back, but they could kind of replace him with Andrew Wiggins. I don't know. Their whole timeline is messed up to me because they're out there running 35-year-old CJ McCollum with 24-year-old Zion Williamson. It just never made any sense to me. You'd think they'd want to go younger, but if they still want a nice piece, Andrew Wiggins is that. Maybe they could trade him to recoup some value there because I still think Andrew Wiggins could get you a first-round pick. Then obviously they got Jaquez, who I kind of thought had no trade value at this point. He's obviously coming off a pretty poor season, but he did score 41 in their final game. Maybe that's enough to convince some teams that there's still something there. And then I have them getting 2 first-round picks, which honestly I think is fair. For the unreliability that Zion is, I think 2 first-round picks in a young asset is not that bad. Now, obviously, with the Heat getting Zion, they'd be able to put together a starting lineup of, let's assume they keep Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Zion Williamson, Bam Adebayo, and Khalil Ware. Obviously, there's some concerns with the fit there. We'll get into that later when I go through my pros and cons of Zion and KD. But I think that's a good starting lineup. They will need some more depth, of course. But the good news is, with this trade, the Heat would still be under the salary cap. They'd actually be about $8 million under the first apron and $19 million under the second apron. So they would have a lot of room to work here and kind of fill out the edges to maybe get some more floor spacers or a true point guard to really run that unit because they'll have the money to do it. So this is kind of my idea for Zion Williamson. Now let's transition into Kevin Durant, who it was confirmed today that the Suns are going to work with Durant and his business partner, Rich Kleiman, to find Kevin Durant's next trade destination because, of course, he has all of the leverage in this case because looking at his contract, he's coming off a $51 million year into his last season of his deal, where next year he'll make $54.7 million at the age of 37 years old, which is a ton. But obviously him being on the last year of his deal, he can kind of dictate where he'd want to go. And we know in the past he's been interested in Miami. Back when we had Dwayne Wade and then Jimmy Butler, would he still want to come here now? Maybe. I mean, he's very close with Bam Adebayo, but we'll get into that too. But what is clear is he does not like the Phoenix Suns. He does not like Mike Budenholzer. It doesn't matter that he just got fired a couple days ago too. I think he should be on his way out the door, and it's looking like the Phoenix Suns are going to blow it up. But looking at Kevin Durant, even at 36 last season, he still had a very, very productive year where he played in 62 games, missed the last couple of weeks of the season with an ankle injury, but even last year he played 75 games. So he is a guy that coming back from his Achilles injury, which would end most guys' career, he came back very strong and has been healthy for the last couple of seasons. And this year, he averaged almost 27 points per game, 6 boards, 4 assists, and obviously he's an efficiency monster, 53% from the field, 43% from 3. I think it's very clear that fit-wise, he would be incredible on the Miami Heat in terms of an on-court basketball fit. And this is the mock trade that I cooked up where the Heat received Kevin Durant and the 3 years left on Royce O'Neal's deal. And they'll be sending over to the Suns the expiring contracts of Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson, 2 nice young pieces in Nikola Jovic and Jaquez Jr., and then 2 first-round picks. So a little bit more for Kevin Durant than Zion Williamson. I was very unsure who has more trade value. Does the 24-year-old who always gets hurt or the 36-year-old who's an absolute legend? Who has more trade value? I don't really know. I did give the edge here to Kevin Durant. And in this trade, I should note that the Suns would have to shed the salary or decline the team option on Micic, which helps get them under the second apron. So a lot of Heat fans, or a lot of Suns fans, I guess, might look at this trade and say, that's not enough for Kevin Durant. Well, let's go through why it's not the worst thing in the world. One, we just said it, Kevin Durant has the leverage. If he wants to come to Miami, Miami shouldn't even have to give up this much, truthfully. Now, if there is a bidding war between Houston and Minnesota and San Antonio, we've heard all these teams, then to be honest, the Heat would probably have to give up more. But if there's not a bidding war, this is not that bad for the Suns because I don't know what direction they're going to want to go in. They said they want to keep Devin Booker, which makes you think they don't want to rebuild, makes you think they still want to be competitive. And while this trade wouldn't necessarily help them do that, it would open up a ton of salary cap space for them because Terry Rozier and Duncan Robinson are both expiring contracts. And with Kevin Durant making $54 million, it's going to be very hard for those other teams, Houston and Minnesota and San Antonio. It's going to be hard for them to match Durant's salary also with expiring contracts, meaning all of the contracts that those teams send over to Phoenix, they're probably going to be long-term deals, meaning Phoenix won't have any flexibility to work next offseason to try to build a team around Devin Booker, where in this trade, they're already about $7 million under the second apron, but then they'd have almost another $36 million open up in cap space the following offseason. So they get cap flexibility. They are getting two nice young pieces because I am giving them Nikola Jovic in addition to Jaime Jaquez. And then 2 first-round picks is not bad at all. Look at a guy like Jimmy Butler who just went for Wiggins and 1 first. Obviously, KD is better. So the Suns are getting 2 young players and 2 first-round picks. That's more than Jimmy Butler got. I think that's a fair comparison. You can even go back to Damian Lillard, a guy that had 4 years left on his deal. Really no leverage at all. So you would think the trade would be better, and all Dame went to the Bucks for was Drew Holiday and a first-round pick. Kevin Durant, I think, going for 2 young picks, cap flexibility, or 2 young players, cap flexibility, and 2 first-round picks, I don't think is bad at all. And also in this trade, the Suns are going to shed the last couple of years of Royce O'Neal's contract, giving them even more cap flexibility and allowing them to get under the second apron immediately, which is definitely something they're going to want to do because to miss the playoffs being a second apron team is insane. Because there's all kind of penalties that they're going to have to pay that actually affect their ability to build a team. And it's okay if you're a good team, if you're the Boston Celtics, but to miss the playoffs as the Suns and be a second apron team, that's just insane. So I don't think it's that bad a trade for the Suns, all things considered. From the Heat side of things, they would retain Andrew Wiggins. They could have a starting lineup of Hero and Wiggins in the backcourt, KD, Bam, and Ware. I personally think that team could compete in the East. I've gotten a lot of pushback when I've said that in other videos, but I think they have defensive and offensive versatility. I think that this core went to the finals with Jimmy Butler. I think Kevin Durant is better than him. So in theory, why can't they get back with Kevin Durant? I don't care if he's 37 years old. He's still one of the best players in this league, one of the best clutch time players, and we know how poor the Heat's clutch time offense is. Kevin Durant would just fix that perfectly, and we would still have cap space in this trade too, as would be $16 million under the second apron, and then both teams would get under the second apron. So now I kind of want to get into the pros and cons of both players to kind of talk through who I think the Heat should target. We'll start with Zion Williamson again, where the pros are, of course, his age. He's a younger player, only at 24 years old, so even younger than Tyler and Bam. But I still think he fits the timeline a little bit well. Obviously, Bam at 27, 28 is slowly approaching 30. But if you can get a core of guys under 30 years old, I consider that the same timeline. And of course, he has the more potential because of his age and also because maybe Heat culture can fix him. Of course, we all think a lot of his injury concerns are due to his health and his weight. And we know that the Heat don't play that game anymore. Unless you're Kyle Lowry, for some reason, they don't enforce the body fat if you're Kyle Lowry. Make it make sense. But for Zion Williamson, I think they would do it. And I think I trust our developmental and coaching staff to kind of get him into Heat shape. And if he's as dominant as he is now at 280 pounds, imagine how dominant he's going to be when he's 260. He'll be more mobile, more agile, and more healthy in theory. So you have a lot of potential there that he could be fixed, I guess you could say. And if you want to count this as a pro, he's on a longer-term contract, so there's no questions in the air if he'll leave the following offseason or anything like that. Of course, that could backfire because if in year 1 he's terrible, you still have to deal with that contract for 2 more seasons. But I don't think that his contract is so bad that he's not Bradley Beal. You're not going to be saying, oh, this is the worst contract in the league, even if he doesn't perform, because we've seen that he is a great player when healthy. The question is not his skill. It's just the health. But going into his cons, obviously the cons is his health and I guess his on-court basketball fit. He's not a great shooter. Bam Adebayo was a phenomenal shooter to end the second half of the season. Shot like 43% from 3 in the final 30 games or something, which is a big sample size, but not quite a big enough sample size for me to be confident that Bam's going to shoot that well year after year after year. And then obviously with Khalil Ware, He has shown an ability to hit the three, but that's not quite his game yet. And if he starts next to Andrew Wiggins, if we're able to keep Wiggins in the trade, obviously that's not Wiggins' game either. But I think that he could work around some things to make that lineup work, whether they started with Duncan Robinson or get Alec or re-sign Alec Burks. There's some things that they can do there. But fit-wise, I just don't think it's the best. Although, to give Zion some credit, he is elite at getting into the paint, which nobody except Davion Mitchell can really do on the Heat consistently. He's also an excellent rebounder and excellent getting at the free throw line. So there is some aspects in there that are pros in terms of his on-court fit. It's just not as seamless a fit as Kevin Durant. So getting into the rest of the pros for KD, obviously you got his on-court fit. We talked about the clutch scoring and just the shooting and the efficiency in general. He is everything I think the Miami Heat could want next to Tyler and Bam. I also think he's a better player currently than Zion, so I think that's a pro for him as well. You don't have any off-the-court issues. Not too much health issues either, as we said, but KD just wants to hoop. And after having Jimmy Butler, who was here, and he quit the last month of his tenure here, Kevin Durant will never quit. He wants to hoop. He's in the club and he's not drinking. He's not dancing. He's hooping. He's practicing his triple stance. Where a guy like Zion Williamson, he's got a lot of like baby mama drama and stuff, but I don't think any of that stuff is too serious. But with Kevin Durant, you literally have nothing except he likes to be petty on Twitter, which I'm kind of here for. To be honest, I kind of think it's funny. Him and Kevin Love would get along great. We would be collecting the infinity stones of social media stars if we had Kevin Durant. Another pro of his is his relationship with Bam Adebayo. Bam has been very close with Donovan Mitchell and Damian Lillard and all these other players in the league, and the Heat have been able to get none of them. And at what point does Bam Adebayo get frustrated that we can't get any of his friends here? I think, we talk about getting all these stars here. Is there the potential that Bam might ask out one day? I certainly hope not, but I could see him getting frustrated if we can't get him any help. So getting Kevin Durant here could show Bam Adebayo, hey, that's your guy. We got him here. This is us showing our appreciation for you. And the last pro that I have for Kevin Durant is he has the leverage. We discussed it earlier. Final year of his deal. If he wants to be here, I think the Heat can get him here. And I only have two cons for him. One is his age. He's 36, going to be 37. But his game obviously should age gracefully just because he's an efficient mid-range jump shooter. That's an old man game. I don't see any reason he can't play at this level for another 2 seasons. And then he is in the final year of his contract, which could be a con. Same thing we talked about with Zion, because there's the potential that he might walk, but I'm pretty sure if the Heat trade for Kevin Durant, they'll sign him to an extension right away. So I don't even think that his final year of his deal is that much of a con. So what would I do between those two players? I would trade for Kevin Durant. I really like Durant. I always have. And I want to compete again. At least I want this team to be interesting. Kevin Durant would certainly do that, and I think you would have a 2-year championship window with him. But let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. Would you prefer Kevin Durant or would you prefer Zion Williamson? All offseason, I'll be talking about all these other stars. Even these guys, I'm sure they'll get their own individual videos because we're about to have a long offseason. So I'll talk about them more. And, of course, we got Trae Young. And I'll still do Giannis videos and Anthony Edwards. We already did a Nikola Jokic and John Morant video. So make sure y'all check that out. Subscribe so you don't miss all the great content we have coming up this offseason. I greatly appreciate all the support. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need that head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.